Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. Breaking news, we have just had a magnitude 4.7 earthquake strike Campi Flegrei directly. This is Italy's supervolcano located west of Naples in Pozzuoli. And this is a very big deal because we've been seeing this exponential increase in earthquake activity, in gas emissions, and also in bradyseism inflation since 2020, which is already riding a wave of increasing characteristics for those metrics since 2005 or so. We've had pretty significant seismic bursts strike Campi Flegrei in 2024, 2025. We've had magnitude 4.0 plus earthquake strike. The way earthquake energy scales is that you can have a seismic swarm of 1,000 events, and a single magnitude 4.3 could be equivalent to all the energy in that swarm because it's just so much bigger. Well, this being a magnitude 4.7 is the strongest event yet during this time frame, going back to 2020. I think it may be the strongest event in the modern record for Campi Flegrei directly. Right here, Solfatara is where you have all the fumaroles and there's sulfur emissions, and it's just a crazy twisted place. I was there in 2017. Really incredible geology. A lot of people live here. This is a really big volcano. I mean, the Italian geophysicists and geologists call it a supervolcano. If you read the research published by the Italians, they call it a supervolcano. So if they're living there and they're calling it one, I'm going to call it one. It has the potential for very big eruptions. 50 cubic kilometer dry rock equivalent material, 150 cubic kilometer. Like, it hasn't had a big eruption since Monte Nuovo, which was about 500 years ago or so. But it has the potential for very big ones. You have some records going back 15,000, 30,000 years or so, 40,000 years ago. For example, like the Neapolitan yellow tuft eruption. Like, there's some really big eruptions that have occurred from Campi Flegrei, and you can see it very simply here with this map. And actually, let's go to our Google Earth map so you can really see Campi Flegrei very directly. But here's Vesuvius off to the side. Okay, everyone knows about Vesuvius, 79 AD. Well, look at all this, okay? So you have actually multiple layers to Campi Flegrei. You have an outer caldera that sweeps through like this, and then you have an inner caldera, and then you have multiple small calderas nested within. So at times, this entire thing just goes. The entire thing just like this. And that's why there is a bay here, because you have this supervolcano literally breathing underneath the Bay of Pozzuoli. Bradyseism, again, is where there's this inflation, deflation in real time. There's a massive magma chamber down here that fills up, deflates, fills up, deflates. And, well, if you get a really big one, that's how you get big eruptions and basically a big sink. Everything just to subside down because you evacuated all that magma. So this is a very significant earthquake. Let me repeat that. As a magnitude 4.7, it's the strongest that has occurred. Here we have some video of it. Some buildings collapsed. I was a little surprised to hear that because it is only 4.7. It's not magnitude 6, but some of the construction's old. Also, it was very shallow, 2.5 kilometers down. So that's the thing. The INGV, they actually have a classification of 4.7 plus or minus 0.3. So technically, it could be up to a magnitude 5 based on their characterization. The USGS has it as a magnitude 4.5. I'm going to go with 4.7. That sounds more in line with the boots on the ground reports. Also, the USGS location is quite a bit off from Solfatara. But you can see this was a big earthquake. Again, shallow, meaning it's destructive, and that makes sense. For what we saw, that makes sense. And if you go back here, we see that there's been more than 90 earthquakes now after that 4.7. So if we pull up our list, okay, we go down, and our 4.7 is right there. A few events from the 30th, by the way, Mount Etna started acting up around the 30th. Sent an ash column up 7 kilometers. We can see that right here. It was continuing to erupt and have these lava flows into the 31st early morning. So Etna's been very active for the past 48 hours, just to kind of buffer it out. 48 hours. Campi Flegrei has the biggest earthquake directly in the center of the volcanic system. And the records that I can find, at least, like we'll go through all the historic data as best as possible. Yeah, something serious is happening with Italy, and this is not just Italy's supervolcano problem, it's Europe's supervolcano problem. Because a really big eruption, folks, is going to set back Europe in general. Like, we're talking a really big one. Now, the chance of that is not 100%. It's actually quite low in the grand scheme. We're talking geologic time, all right? Thankfully, these events, when they do occur, they're usually pretty infrequent. It's like a 15,000 year reoccurrence interval, okay? But we are nudging up to that 15,000 year reoccurrence interval, and we are seeing this increasing activity. So that's why it's important to, report on this, because tens of thousands, if not like 100 or 200,000 people live here. Like, a lot of people live in Pozzuoli. It's at least tens of thousands. And there's been no evacuation or anything that's done. Everyone knows that this is a big issue, but people live there. They've lived there for centuries, the families. So here's the thing, though. There's been 90 plus events now since that 4.7, and we can see that it's directly here in the main area, the column. So this is Solfatara, right? And look how it's going directly below it. So often you get activity to the side, and we actually did have a magnitude 3.8 that also struck here, roughly the same depth as a 4.7. This was afterwards. So maybe a new kind of injection coming in there, but look at how this 4.7 really initiated this whole sequence up. So that's going to be partly due to, and probably majority due to, hydrothermal activity, because a lot of what's happening here in this top 3 kilometers is actually superheated fluids and some gas emissions. They're coming up and they're creating little microfractures, and this whole area is super fractured up. But the thing with Campi Flegrei is that there is this cap rock that's been identified via seismic data, and also resistivity methods and more. And that's kind of what's holding the pressure back. So if that's increasingly getting fractured, because you get this, basically the volcanic cycle is that you get a huge eruption, giant explosion. Okay, then there's this, that's the rupture phase, let's call it. We're kind of taking this from earthquakes, but this is roughly similar for volcanoes. So you have this rupture phase, then you have this healing phase afterwards. That's kind of like when you can expect there to be a new cap rock to form. And then you have a loading phase where more energy now starts to load in again. And then eventually you get a rupture and da-da-da-da-da. So this cap rock is heavily fractured, and it's only getting more fractured. Now this 4.7 really, again, just really beating it up. And so if you get more movement from depth and more magma injecting up to a magma chamber, and just in general a melt system, which are very complex. You have melt lenses, you have sills, you have dikes, you have crystal mush zones. It's not just liquid magma under the surface. Sometimes it is. Often it's a more crystallized mush zone where you have a lot of crystals, but there's still a little bit of kind of fluidity to things, and then you can dissolve these crystals under certain circumstances and cause them to all of a sudden become mobile. And a lot of it depends on deep earth dynamics, but clearly this cap rock is breaking down. Like, in real time, we are seeing this in the past 5-6 years, these magnitude 4s just beating upon this thing. So this is very serious, and it's worth paying attention to. Here we see the only other magnitude 4 that has occurred, 4 plus, that's occurred in 2026. So we had a lot of activity, as I mentioned, in 2024, 2025, and then things seem to be dying down in 2026, which I was like, thank God, because we saw way too much activity from Campi Flegrei in a way that was worrying over the past 2 years. So it's like, okay, we haven't seen any big seismic bursts, like everything's looking a little bit more normal. That is good. We did have this magnitude 4.4 here, air range 0.3 magnitude. So, but that's further off in the Gulf. There is like a bilobe structure to Campi Flegrei, but in general, all of this is a supervolcano, right? You don't get this whole thing to explode like that, if in the past, if you don't have a big magma chamber there. But this is where it's most active. So now we have this 4.7 really coming in, changing things up. And here we see all our magnitude 4+ earthquakes for Campi Flegrei going back to 2022. And these are really the most key periods because, again, seismicity has been increasing since 2020. It's been gas emissions have been going up and inflation and more. So we're capturing the majority of the events and certainly the strongest ones. So we see our 4.7 there, 2.6 kilometers down, and then we see a 4.4. That's the other one for this year, but then we have to go back to 2025. You see some 4.6s right here, 4.6 on the 30th of June, and then a 4.6 there on the 13th of March in 2025, and then before that's magnitude 4s, 4.4 there in 2024. But you can see how this has been increasing, okay? So this is why this is significant. And yeah, I mean, you can see the shaking again right here. And it was, pretty long earthquake, as you can tell. You can tell that this did not just hit for, 5 minutes or 5 seconds or something. This was like an extended duration. There were some landslides that occurred, dust and everything's rising up. Now the big question is, like an immediate thing to be mindful of is, do we have an issue with maybe a sudden increase in gas emissions? And these gases can be toxic. We had that happen I think about 3, 4, 5 months ago, is that we've had some fumerals open up and gas was going into a school and they had to shut it down. So, obviously this volcano is very active and alive. And so we could see a sudden shift in maybe gas conduits and the flow of it, and now opening up in new areas and causing problems, maybe injuries. I mean, it could be very bad. Here we have an earthquake calculator, and I just want to show you the difference between a magnitude 4.4 and a 4.7. Because we had, back in 2024, the strongest was a 4.4. We had some magnitude 4.6s in 2025, but this 4.7 is the strongest. Magnitude 4.7 is 3 times stronger in terms of energy release. So this is significant. If we go up here, 4.7, equivalent to 169 tons, metric tons of TNT exploding. So it's only still, if we use this measure, 0.01 Hiroshima bombs. Magnitude 4.7, the grand scheme is not big, but for a volcano it can be big. And again, it's more the trend, the exact location, the shallow depth, and it's all relative. So for this specific spot on the globe, for this volcano, this is a big deal. But if you compare it to the magnitude 7.1 that just struck Japan, yeah, totally different tectonic scenario and not really worthy of note, of course. But this is very worthy of note for Campi Flegrei. Now here's the other thing that's happened recently. We can see that we have had some signs of activity from deeper in the earth. And that's kind of the main thing to be mindful of. Now that we have this 4.7, this confirms that what we were talking about back in March and in June with these deep, more powerful earthquakes causing deeper crustal changes and changes in the asthenosphere, perhaps feeding magma up, that looks like that's what's happening. So I actually was in Italy for this magnitude 6. I was in Rome, didn't feel it. Basically, no one felt it because it's 375 kilometers down. That was on the 9th of March. But you notice how close it is to Campi Flegrei. Campi Flegrei is right there. This was right off of it. And consider the depth. Really, there's very little offset there in terms of the depth. So keep that in mind. So that was a big wake-up call. When I saw that, that was like, okay, Campi Flegrei is maybe entering into a new stage. We saw warm-ups perhaps in 24, 25. Now this magnitude 6 signaling something different, but we didn't see the surface level activity to correspond with that until today with this magnitude 4.7. But we also had a follow-up to that magnitude 6, even bigger, closer to Marcili volcano, 6.2, and also shallower on the 1st of June, 243 kilometers down. Now this is showing larger changes overall to the Campanian arc, which is the subduction zone that exists in this area. So we can check out here our plate interfaces, and we see that we have this subduction area. I mean, they don't, yeah. So we have this subduction area, and you basically have the African plate subducting underneath the Eurasian plate, and so you get all this twisted up activity in Italy. That's why there's a supervolcano there in the first place. This is why you have Mount Etna here, which is, you know, as I just showed you, blasting off tons of activity in the past 48 hours. That's why Marcili volcano is there. That's a huge submarine volcano, very, very big. Clearly, we're seeing some pretty significant changes occur around Italy, and this could be a big, big problem for Europe if something finally decides to go. It's certainly possible. There's no reason why this thing couldn't just go off one day. And this is a sort of preliminary activity that we would expect, though I would say even more frequent and troubling, like probably like think 2 weeks nonstop of this just battering off. But then it's like, guys, you need to get out. Okay, so as a single earthquake, it's a warning sign. Now, if we were to get 5 of these in the row, 5 of these, or even like a sequence in the span of a week, now we're really starting to get worried, okay? That's like a very clear sign that something's coming. So that's not yet, but I mean, this literally could be the beginning of that. Hopefully not, probably a lower probability because again, geologic time, but we are seeing this clear increase in activity from Campi Flegrei, and it's really only going up. Here we see our seismic activity going back to this year. All right, this is 2026 right here. And so we see this 4.6. Let me get this guy there. 4.7 rather. USGS has as a 4.5. Notice how far away they put it from Solfatara. Now, USGS is using a global network, but it's fairly low density. INGV has a super high resolution seismic network right in Campi Flegrei. So that's why the magnitude is going to be more precise, the depth is going to be more accurate. You know, they have this at 5 kilometers right there, as you can see. So we're going with the INGV. The epicenter location is going to be much more accurate as well. But if we zoom out, we do see the 6.0, the 6.2. And we see some other magnitude 4 activity that struck around. So it's not like a magnitude 4 in Italy is abnormal, but it being directly in the Campi Flegrei supervolcano system is what makes that highly significant and why I'm doing, literally why I'm doing a live stream right now. So hello and welcome everyone. If you are new here, I'm your host Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy. We cover what's happening with the Earth energetically. I release videos almost daily discussing earthquakes, volcanoes, extreme weather, geomagnetic storming, solar activity, space weather, planetary alignments, planetary geometry and resonances, interstellar cosmic forces, consciousness, and more. So if you like the sound of that, basically we're trying to figure out what the heck is happening here on Earth with an open mind, but looking at the scientific facts at the same time. We're not getting lost in the sauce either direction. I'm just interested in what the heck is actually happening, right? And not being fed some BS narrative of, oh, everything is okay, don't you worry, as then, you know, the 4.7 collapses your home and then the volcano wakes up. So, yeah, we're concerned about what's actually happening. If you want to stay up to date, then please subscribe. Here we see bigger activity going back to year 1900 for Italy, and also Croatia, and going down into Greece and more. But you notice here a 7.1 in 1908 and a magnitude 7.2 in 1905. So very clear, quick clustering of activity there, centered around 1906, which is the year that we had a ton of activity. There was so much earthquake activity in 1906. It's a record year, even though you didn't have a magnitude 9.0 or greater earthquake pop off, it remains one of the strongest years ever for seismic energy release, at least for our modern records, because of how many magnitude 8s popped off. So you see that on either side of 1906, close together, big magnitude 7s. But if you again look at this historic record, there's that 6.2 from this year. Now here's a 6.5 from 1910. You notice that the depth on that, 260 kilometers, is similar to this 6.2 here, 243. That's 1910. And then if we go up, here we see a magnitude 6 in 1915, depth 320 kilometers. And here is our magnitude 6 for this year, depth 375 kilometers. So these two are similar, right? These two are similar, but this is 1915. And then these two are similar as well, but this one here is 1910. And both of these older ones are slightly higher in magnitude and roughly at the same depth. But kind of what that's showing, 1910 and 1915 is not too far off from 1906. So this is kind of linking what's happening now because of the similarities between those to what happened in the past, which clearly was very big with some big magnitude 7s. So that's an interesting thing to point out. Here, though, is a magnitude 6 in 2002, but now we're starting to get pretty far away from the main area of interest. I mean, one way I do look at this is I look at Marsili volcano here. This is a back arc spreading center, but it's actually a submarine volcano, and it's, well, one of the largest in Italy. I mean, this is really like the actual super volcano in Italy, if you really want to know. I personally think that this is an entire caldera for that. Like, I think that there is some huge explosive potential here that maybe we haven't fully characterized scientifically. We really actually know quite little about Marsili volcano. We have a whole bunch of volcanoes like Stromboli, for example, clustering around the edge of Marsili. And you see there have been other back arc spreading centers here as well in the Tyrrhenian Sea. So this is an evolution across time. And we see that Marsili volcano is actually linked with its eruptive activity, its volcanic activity, with the geomagnetic field. It underwent periods of greater spreading rate during some periods of magnetic reversals about 2 million years ago, and then also with the most recent magnetic reversal about 780,000 years ago. But again, you notice here, what we've had this past year in 2026, right there, that's the biggest earthquake that we know of to strike close to Campi Flegrei in this entire time frame of the year 1900 to now. So that makes it very significant, right? This is like a deep implosion of the asthenosphere. At 375 kilometers down, we don't even really know what causes those sort of earthquakes. A deep focus quake like that. There's maybe some mineralogical phase transition, like runaway exothermic process, like an implosion. We really kind of don't know. It's not a normal fault. We don't have like normal faults down there. So yeah, the fact that we had that 6.2 nearby as well, also kind of saying, hey, wake up. And now this 4.7, this is getting pretty serious. Here we see a photo from it, and we see some pretty big cracking in this road here. So this was a pretty destructive 4.7 actually. Pretty destructive 4.7. Definitely nothing to scoff at or to ignore if you're interested in what's happening. I mean, look at this, right? Imagine magnitude 6 pops off. I mean, we could see that a close to the surface magnitude 6. If this volcano really starts to go, like guaranteed, if you have a 50 cubic kilometer dry rock equivalent eruption, which would be a strong VEI6 eruption. VEI6 goes from 10 cubic kilometers to 100 cubic kilometers. Let's say you have a VEI 6.5. I guess that'd be right in the middle at 50, right? You're going to get some big earthquakes to kind of get that guy going, right? How the heck else does it explode, right? It's just they're going to be hand in hand. So maybe even a swarm of magnitude 6s would occur, and then the explode, like right? This is from a 4.7. Imagine even a 5.5 striking shallow. Wow. I'm just looking at this right now for the first time, these photos. I pulled it up. I didn't scroll through them. So yeah, clearly a big wake-up call for everyone in Potswali with the 4.7, the 4.3, and the 90 other earthquakes that have struck today. Yeah, this is quite significant. Here we have a photo showing the seismicity. So there's that 4.7 right there. And then these lines continue down. So then afterwards is when we get this, is that right? Yeah, so then afterwards is when we get this 3.8. So this is the 4.7, it went across like this, and then there's the 3.8, and here must be, I think one of the 3.1s is right there. Though that's showing 2.6, it's saying something about 2.6. So maybe that's the 2.6, but you can see these earthquakes come in real time. And then you see all the microseismicity. So it really puts it into perspective when you see the amplitude differences. This is scaling way off the chart, as you can tell. Those are not clipped at all. Here's another video, Campi Flegrei. A lot of dust, it looks like. I mean, is that ash? I really don't. Is that a boulder that smashed a car? Oh my God. Oh, so it's a landslide. Holy cow, this whole slope just went down. That car just got flattened. 2 cars. Look, oh my, what? Oh my God. So this is a big deal. Here's another video here. Must be from the other view showing that rock slide coming down right outside Solfatara. Yeah, there it is. Whoa. Yes, this is big. This is a big deal. And of course, Etna also showing that this is larger changes for Italy, not just simply for, Campi Flegrei specifically. You'd expect if there is going to be something happening for Italy that you're going to get some widespread activity across the board. Now, one thing to point out is the planetary alignment that we have that's been active. We were talking about this. It's still active today, the 31st of July. We're just now having a waning gibbous moon. So we had our full moon on the 29th, the 30th. Now it's the 31st. So the moon's still very illuminated, but I'm not sure we call it full moon anymore. Now it's a waning gibbous moon, but close to full moon. But we've been dealing with this Jupiter-Pluto alignment right here. Starting to break, but when you get a big alignment like this, it's not a one-day thing. Honestly, this is going all the way from May here, or June rather. You go beginning of June. And June 1st is when we had that 6.2, mind you, okay? So look at this. We're already starting to get active here heliocentrically, at least with the sun. Oh, something happened. Here we go. And then you go there. Here is early July. That's when heliocentric gets very precise. But then the Earth, which we see right there, moves into that alignment. Right here, end of July, it really moves in. And we even get that moon to enter into the alignment. It was on the 29th of July, exactly with the full moon, that we had the Jupiter Cazimi. All right. So that was a big time. I forecasted that we were probably going to have some activity around this alignment going back to May. That was yesterday's video. I put out a post on May 27th talking about an enhancement of space weather, but we, in live streams and more, been talking about earthquake activity, even financial activity and such. And so, well, that's what happened. If we go here, we can look at our proton flux, and we had a 1.9 M-class flare yesterday. I can show you that here on screen. Here's our 1.9 M-class flare from Sunspot Group 4492 from 60 degrees, but still blasting it pretty much towards Earth to a large extent. This was a significant coronal mass ejection that was launched outwards. We can look at that right here. We even had a Sundiver comet come in, and basically right as it would have impacted with the, at this point it's plasma. but as it's going in, it's vaporizing. It appears that right when this comes in is when you get this coronal mass ejection to occur. And then we also have Jupiter Cazimi exactly at this moment on the other side of the sun. It's like right here at this moment in time. And it's just now coming out of that Cazimi. So we've had a clustering of events around that, the magnitude 7.1 that struck Japan, some very extreme weather across the world, extreme wildfires across the world, extreme heat waves across the world, rapid strengthening of cyclones in the Pacific, with Genevieve, with Dolphin, both of them reaching that Category 5 status. We have this proton storm with the solar storm impact coming in now early August. So it's been active with this alignment, and now we're seeing that Campi Flegrei is also part of this equation. Etna is part of this equation. Kilauea on the Big Island of Hawaii erupted perfectly on the full moon. So that's one of the world's largest volcanoes. So again, speaking to those deep earth changes, we see some resonance there. Now it's been erupting since 2024, but it's also, it's been erupting since 2024 with 52 eruptions now, lava fountain episodes in just like a year and a half, which is a record-breaking amount in a record-breaking amount of time. So again, showing this connection that we're seeing some changes with our planet that are deeper, but manifesting now to the surface. And at the same time, we are still in an active phase of solar activity. Solar cycle 25 is stronger than 24, loaded up a ton of energy into the Earth, and we're still getting this energy to come in. This being the first proton radiation storm since May 26, a day before I put out my update saying, hey, watch out for the end of July, beginning of August. We're probably going to get some notable enhanced solar activity and space weather. And boom shakalaka, there we go. So this is, also contributing into this to some degree, though I wouldn't necessarily blame this proton storm for the magnitude 4.7 earthquake that struck Campi Flegrei, but it's definitely worthy of note. Now I want to check out something on Volcano Discovery because they have graphics for all this. So let's go to Volcano Discovery here, and let's see if we can find Campi Flegrei here with our search function. Okay, so we are just simply going to do an old school search, and it should pop right up. Okay. Because they have recent quakes and everything. So here is our seismic burst right now. There it is. And if we do our past 7 days, you see that, there's always a little bit of activity, but these are just magnitude 2 to 3s, right? This is our magnitude 4.7 with some magnitude 3s as well. Here we see our 14 days, our 30 days, our 1 year. So look there. Look at this progression of big earthquakes, but getting shallower, right? And this was a bit of a focus period, but clearly more there. Look at how we had a lot of low-grade seismicity that then dropped off, but now we've had our biggest earthquake yet, which is important. Here we see our number of quakes per year, our earthquake statistics, and we see that 2025 was record year with 5 magnitude 4s. Now we've had 2 magnitude 4 plus earthquakes in 2026. It's only showing 1, but we have 2 now. And the other earthquake counts have gone down. So we could maybe see a last minute bump up with the number of quakes, but it's really the energy release that is very notable. Because here we have 2025, okay, and we're really looking here at our total seismic energy release. And this line right there is for 100 megawatt hours, okay? And this is peaking up at maybe about 150 megawatt hours, okay, for this 4.6 in 2025. Right? Well, if we go to now, we see that this 4.7 there, it would be higher. Now they're taking the USGS value. So they're showing 4.5, but that's going to be even higher in the energy release because it's a 4.7. But 2025, clearly a big year. Here's that seismic burst that occurred in February where we had like nearly 1,000 earthquakes. But you see that like right here, for example, one big earthquake, more energy than the seismic burst. But this led to that, and that led to what we are seeing right now. And this is the most significant burst of seismicity that we've had at Campi Flegrei for 2026. As you can see, there's a lot of low-grade earthquakes in that magnitude 0 to 0.9 range. And here's our seismic energy over time. So again, not just that 4.7, it's also the 3.8, some others. We'll look at that circle. So a big increase in the energy for 2026, where we were only hovering there about 25 megawatt hours cumulatively. Now we're bumped up quite a bit higher than that. Yeah, basically now this 4.6 leaves a lot of open questions. What sort of earthquake activity are we going to see in the days ahead? What sort of gas emissions and changes to gas-related activity, fumaroles and all that in the days ahead, weeks ahead, months ahead? Solfatara, is there going to be any notable change there? We're going to observe changes to the temperature of the hydrothermal fluid system, because if we do up or down, that could be indicating new routing, significant shifts. The magnitude 5.6 earthquake that struck Ukiah Willits in California on the 24th of June this year, same day as the Venezuela quakes, and also the magnitude 7.2 that struck Japan. The 5.6 that struck Ukiah Willits was historic. Locals now have been seeing springs come back to life and their wells all of a sudden running much more prolifically. So when you get these earthquakes, you can see changes of groundwater and all those systems underneath the surface, of course. So I'm just using it as an example for, well, we could be seeing some pretty significant shifts with these other volcanic factors in the days ahead. They have some rebuilding to do, some stuff to clean up. But now maybe this starts a new phase of heightened unrest, and we could also just simply be witnessing the first higher magnitude 4 earthquake, and maybe we get a magnitude 5 soon. Like, that's very possible. Okay, that's not like some low probability, super mega eruption. That's a very low possibility, but it's certainly getting riskier as we go on, it seems, with what's happening. But a magnitude 5, or like let's say a 5.2 all of a sudden striking Campi Flegrei is certainly on the table. And I'm surprised, I wouldn't be surprised if it's already actually on the bingo card too, and about to be stamped. Like, we could very easily get this could be a foreshock to something bigger. Think about that. Now we're really starting to cook up some activity, because a magnitude 5.2, think of the energy scaling with that, for example, compared to a 4.7. So things could really ramp up quickly here with Campi Flegrei. And so I want to report on that as soon as I could for you live. We have some questions that have come in. We're just going to quickly go through them, see what's up. Nikki, thank you for your super thanks. It's much appreciated. And Dan, our mod here, thank you for the super thanks as well. It's not my birthday. That's the joke, though. Thank you, Dan. And Simon for $10. Thank you so much. In a future video, I would like to know what your thoughts are on the 6-planet alignment and total solar eclipse on August 12th, followed by the perceived meteor shower the next day. We talked about the total solar eclipse yesterday, so you could check that out. I'm not exactly sure what 6-planet alignment you're talking about, because I don't think there's really anything super significant showing up on the 12th of August, but from the top of my mind. Yeah, I'm not sure what 6-planet alignment you're talking about, dude. I'm not, like a straight line. Not really seeing things. Not seeing it. But yeah, we talked about the eclipse in the last video, so you can watch that if you want. So thank you for the super thanks. Boom shakalaka, thank you so much. And also thank you for the super thanks. So we'll do this question and then I'm going to sign off. So if not now, then when? That is a good question, and basically a really hard question to answer. You definitely can't definitively answer this question unless you literally have the magic ball, or you came back from the future. Even then, maybe you're influencing it. Start to get into some interesting rabbit holes there. But If not now, then when? Well, I don't think a 4.7 is necessarily indicative that Campi Flegrei is going to erupt tomorrow. But we are seeing this clear trend. And what we're seeing with the increasing seismicity and everything else since 2020 is far greater than the seismic crisis from 1980, 82, 83 to 84. There was this increase in seismicity for Campi Flegrei in the early to mid 80s that had a lot of people worried. This is far more significant than that. So, and it's been 500, like close to 500 years now. So I wouldn't be surprised if in our lifetimes, like in the near future, I wouldn't even be surprised if in the next 5 years, we get something to happen at Campi Flegrei. I could see it happening in the 2030s very clearly. I don't think we're there yet, though. This again is a sign that we're getting closer to something. I don't think we're just going to have this get bigger and bigger and bigger and then just totally go away and die off. I think we're looking at something's building up, and it's only a matter of time. But if it's a really big eruption, we're talking like a historic eruption, this could be 30 more years of buildup before it really goes. Like, that's certainly possible. Because the bigger something is, the more time it has. It doesn't have to just kind of do it all quickly. It's going to build up over time. So, again, this activity, though, already has been increasing since 2005. It's just it started to really go exponential in 2020. Now we're in 2026. This being the strongest now recorded for Campi Flegrei. So more earthquakes are continuing to pile in to Campi Flegrei, and I will keep you up to date on the situation. So thank you all so much for watching, everybody. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. And if you like the video, please smash that thumbs up button and help the channel grow. It gets this video out to more people. My primary goal is to educate people on what is happening with the Earth, the science, and also being open-minded to other things. That's why we look at, for example, the connection between the sun and the Earth. For some reason, a lot of people have a bit of a disconnect there, but all the energy that the Earth has, it comes from the sun, except for some radioactive decay in the core, as far as we know. Though there's a lot more that we don't know than we do know. But of course, the solar energy coming in has an influence. And there are many other factors as well. The planets have a strong influence over solar activity. I mean, the fact that we can use planetary geometry to forecast solar activity is your clue there. So if they're able to influence the sun, well, then yeah, planetary alignments are also going to be influencing this planet. We're taking part in this larger symphony of expression that the universe has. So we'll continue to explore that. Thank you all so much. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all in the next video.